Hello, and welcome to my film review. Here I review the movie Henry VIII. Henry VIII is infamous for having six wives and is well known of the most interesting kings in history. For starters, who is King Henry VIII? Henry VIII was born in June 28, 1491 till January 28, 1547, and was king from 1509 till his death. He ruled England for 36 years. Keep in mind that Henry's father had one wish for his son Henry, and that is to have a son and continue the bloodline. This will be very important as the story goes on. So, who is Catherine of Aragon? Catherine of Aragon was Queen of England from June 1509 until May 1533. She was Henry's first wife. She was born on December 16, 1485 till January 7, 1536. Catherine of Aragon was the daughter of Spanish monarchs King Ferdinand II and Queen Isabella. She married Henry VIII but did not give birth to a male heir. Did you know that the daughter of Catherine of Aragon is named Mary Tudor? Mary Tudor was named Bloody Mary by her Protestant opponents. Hever Castle, the Boleyn family home arc. It features a young woman named Anne Boleyn as she met King Henry VIII. Henry to Anne arc. Anne was angry at Henry because he cancelled the supposed marriage for no good reason with Percy. Henry comes to Hever Castle to meet Anne and tells her to go in his castle. Henry developed a strong liking to Anne. Rainy jousting arc. Henry invites Anne to go watch a jousting match with him. Both Henry and Anne watch a Scottish knight win the match. Jousting, a medieval sport contest in which two opponents on horseback, typically knights, fight with lances. Henry challenges the Scottish knight to have a duel with him. The Scottish knight won the match, but Henry persisted that he wants a rematch. As the rematch started, Henry pierced the eye of the Scottish knight from its helmet. Henry screams for victory as the Scottish knight collapses. Little did they know. Surprisingly, the knight had the plague. The audience were screaming and they began a stampede. Did you know the Black Death was a bubonic plague pandemic occurring in Afro-Eurasia from 1346 to 53? It is the most fatal pandemic recorded in human history, resulting in the deaths of up to 75 to 200 million people in Eurasia and North Africa, peaking in Europe from 1347 to 1351. The plague killed an estimated 25 million people, almost a third of the continent's population. By the way, who is Anne Boleyn? Anne Boleyn was a Queen of England from 1533 to 1536 as the second wife of King Henry VIII. Henry leaves Ark. Anne thought he left because of the plague coming from the joust. Plot twist: the joust didn't have the plague, he only had a small fever. This trickery was made by none other than Henry's Cardinal Wolsey. Henry's poems and letters arc. As Henry was separated from Anne, he began writing letters and poems to her. As Henry writes more letters to Anne, Catherine has suspicions. Henry's confrontation arc. Henry confronts Wolsey that he wants Anne Boleyn. He stated that in Leviticus, if a man marries his brother's wife, it is an act of impurity. He has dishonored his brother and they will be childless. Roman Church England arc. People stated that they had enough of the Roman Church and they want to break their ties with them. Henry wanted a divorce with Catherine, although the Pope is completely against it. 1539, Blackfriars, London. The papal legate judges the royal marriage. Henry wants Anne to be his queen, but Rome is opposed by this. If Henry simply will divorce Catherine, then she will inform the Pope and wait for his reply. Vatican Rome Arc. The Pope has replied. He declined and refused the divorce. Henry was mad at Wolsey. Henry thought that Wolsey secured his victory. Divorce Arc. Wolsey and Anne began to argue, but Henry steps in, making a tantrum. Henry created the Church of England after his split with the Pope. The Church of England does not recognize the Pope. Catherine was informed that she was no longer queen. She denies this as she was his lawful wife. Anne Boleyn is the new Queen of England. Henry's disappointment arc. Henry was so delighted to see his newborn son, but Anne told him that it's a girl. Henry's disappointment was immeasurable. Introduction to Jane Seymour arc. Henry was mad because he's still without a male heir. Who the heck is Jane Seymour? Well, stick around if you wanna see more. Jane Seymour, also known as Jane Seymour, was Queen of England from 1536 to 1537 as the third wife of King Henry VIII. She succeeded Anne Boleyn as Queen Consort following the latter execution in May 1536. Angry issues on Henry arc. Henry went on a tantrum because he is still without a male heir. Furthermore, Henry found out that Anne committed adultery and infidelity. Trial of Anne Boleyn. She committed adultery, infidelity, and incest. Adultery. Voluntary sexual intercourse between a married person and a person who is not his or her spouse. Incest can be defined as sexual activity with a person from within the immediate family. The death of Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn was beheaded. When Jane gave birth, the newborn was a boy. Henry rejoiced. Henry's joy didn't last long as Seymour died only 9 days later of puerperal fever, an infection that can occur post-childbirth. Jane gave birth to his son Edward VI. Introduction of the fourth wife, Anne of Cleves. Henry was astonished as he saw a portrait of Anne of Cleves. Anne of Cleves. Anne of Cleves was Queen of England from January 6 to July 9 of 1540 as the fourth wife of King Henry VIII. Henry immediately lost interest in her, and thus she was divorced. Let's continue to the fifth wife, Catherine Howard. Catherine Howard was Queen of England from 1540 until 1541 as the fifth wife of Henry VIII. She was the daughter of Lord Edmund Howard and Joyce Culpeper, cousin to Anne Boleyn and niece to Thomas Howard and third Duke of Norfolk. Henry was amazed on how Catherine's face is so majestic, but as time went on, Catherine had another affair, Thomas Edward. When Henry found out, he went on a rampage. Catherine is now being persecuted. On the morning of February 13, 1542, Catherine Howard was beheaded. On to the last and final wife, Catherine Parr. Catherine Parr, sometimes alternatively spelled Catherine and many more, was Queen of England and Ireland as the last of the 6 wives of King Henry VIII, and the final Queen Consort of the House of Tudor. She married him on July 12, 1543 and outlived him by a year and 8 months. Henry VIII died in Whitehall Palace, London. Though he died from natural causes, his health was poor. He had become obese and a leg wound from his jousting accident had become ulcerated. He died on January 28, 1547.